Good evening and welcome to OPM Live, where the ordinary is the extraordinary. And today we have with us Mr. Vanderbuilt Brabson III, author of a new thriller, The Gatekeeper. Mr. Vanderbilt, welcome to OPM Live. And how are you today?
I'm doing fine and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad you was able to make it. Can you please tell us a little bit about your new book?
The Gatekeeper, I guess if I were to describe it, I'd say 5 things about it. First of all, the Gatekeeper is about the Proverbs 7 woman. The Bible says that her house is the way to hell. The Gatekeeper, secondly, is a tragedy. It is the story of a young girl who is adopted by an older couple who essentially take her in, and the woman's a godly woman, the mother is, that is the adopted mother, and the father is anything but that. He's a functioning alcoholic. At the age of 10, when this girl turns 10 years old, the mother actually dies, and the father ultimately begins to abuse her and eventually sexually molest her. In her efforts and desperation to get out of that situation, she confides in another teenager. This other teenager introduces her to a group of people who actually embrace her, befriend her, and these people turn out to be Satan worshipers. They take her into the cult. She becomes demonized, and by the time she's in her mid-20s, this demon in her has moved her to have paranormal powers, and she has seduced a number of men and damned the souls of many men by the age of 26 years old. The Gatekeeper, I would say, is also the story of a young minister by the name of Joshua, who is the director of a youth center who goes after this demonized temptress, Desiree, in order to break the grips of Satan on her life. Desiree ultimately is plagued by nightmares. And essentially, she comes to realize through those nightmares and the torment within herself that she's as much a victim of the powers of darkness as the victims that she makes of men. And lastly, I guess I would say that the Gatekeeper is about a struggle. It's a struggle between the kingdom of light and the powers and the forces of darkness over the soul of this demonized temptress, Desiree. It's a pretty good thriller, if I say so myself.
And indeed it is. I had a chance to read it, and I was truly blown away in the first chapter.
Right.
So it was definitely, and it is definitely a page turner. But I got a little bit ahead of myself. Do you mind telling our audience a little bit about you, Mr. Vanderbuilt Brabson III?
Okay. I graduated from the University of Tennessee years ago with Moses and the other prophets. Been married to my wife, Doretha, for over 30 years. We have 4 grown children, India, Vanisha, Vanderbilt IV, and Joshua. Worked a number of years for the government, Tennessee Valley Authority, as a senior human resource consultant, and the last 18 years or so as a consultant as well as a TVA employee as a senior labor relations consultant. I have been a Tennessee Supreme Court Rule 31 listed mediator for the state of Tennessee, where we basically go in and do resolutions to complaints, disputes within families, between individuals, and also communities. But basically, I've had a passion for writing for longer than I've been married.
And back to the Gatekeeper. You've already given us a little bit about your book. Tell us how we can find it, where we can publish it. Where we can pick it up, where it's sold from.
Yeah, actually, you could go to our website, www.gatekeeperthebook.com, and on there you'll see the book cover itself. Also, there's a book trailer on there. It also talks about some of our awards. We don't sell the book ourselves. Amazon.com sells it, Barnes & Noble sells it, and a number of other websites that sell books actually carry the Gatekeeper. It's sold in the United States, it's sold in Canada, it's also sold in the UK. And if you go to our website, there's an icon on there for Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And if you just click on either of those icons, it'll take you to those respective sites, directly to my book on those sites. And of course, there's ordering information on Barnes & Noble and the Amazon.com website where you can actually purchase the book.
Once again, Mr. Brabson, thank you so much for being a part of our show, OPM Live. But I have one question before we finished. If a young writer came to you and wanted to know what is it that I can do to make my book sell, I enjoy writing, but I want to make sure that I am able to capture my audience and that my book is going to sell. What is it that you would tell him or her?
Well, first of all, I would say that anybody who's publishing a book needs to understand that marketing is a big part of that book, and that's the challenge for all of us as writers, because no matter how good your book is, if it doesn't have the right exposure, nobody can buy a book that they've never heard of. But secondly, and more importantly, is in order to have a product, you need a good product. And if you're going to write a book, write about something that you're extremely passionate about. If you're passionate about it, it'll come across in your writing, because every book that you write is a piece of you. And if you're passionate about your writing, then it'll probably sell if it's marketed correctly. But if you're not passionate about your work, then people are not going to be passionate about reading your work. If you are, that would be my advice to them. Marketing, passion, and commitment to writing. And basically to be committed to continuing to be a good writer.
Okay, and before we go, one more time, Mr. Brabson, where can we find the Gatekeeper?
www.gatekeeperthebook.com, Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.
Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Brabson. We definitely enjoyed you. And once again, this is OPM Live, where the ordinary is the extraordinary. And as always, love, peace, and increase. Be blessed.